Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm excited to share my experience with the iPhone 16 Plus, which I've been testing after already spending some time with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Coming from the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I've gotten quite used to Apple's larger smartphones. So, let's dive into what makes the iPhone 16 Plus stand out, and where it might fall short. The iPhone 16 Plus is noticeably bigger than the regular iPhone 16, thanks to its large 6.7-inch screen. Despite the bigger display, it still feels manageable, weighing just 199 grams. If you're comfortable with big phones, it shouldn't be too overwhelming, but if large devices aren't your thing, this one might feel a bit hefty. One of the first things you'll notice when holding the iPhone 16 Plus is the excellent build quality. Compared to its predecessor, the iPhone 15 Plus, the design feels even more refined. The rounded corners, the smooth glass back, and the overall feel of the phone just scream premium. Apple has also made some design improvements to the camera module, making it look like it's floating on the back of the phone, which is pretty cool. Speaking of looks, the new color options are beautiful. I've been using the teal version, and it's a standout. The matte finish on the metal chassis pairs well with the bright new color choices, giving the phone a fresh, modern vibe. While it doesn't have the titanium chassis like the Pro Max, the metal frame of the 16 Plus feels solid and warm to the touch, with a good grip if you decide to go without a case. There is a noticeable weight difference between the two models. The Pro Max is 28 grams heavier, and that might matter if you want something lighter for everyday use. I've tried the iPhone 16 Plus both with and without a case, and I didn't find it uncomfortable to carry around, even in jeans pockets. The official Apple silicone case, while protective, does pick up a fair amount of dust, but the sapphire crystal cover over the camera control button is a nice touch. This new button feels great to use, and you also get a fun animation when using MagSafe wireless charging. Now, let's get into the big question. Is the iPhone 16 Plus the right choice if you're not a fan of oversized phones? If not, the regular iPhone 16 might be a better fit for you. But if you're okay with the size, you'll find this to be a gorgeous and well-crafted device that should set the bar for other smartphones, along with the Google Pixel 9 series, in terms of quality and design. That said, there are two areas where the iPhone 16 Plus screen falls short. First, the 60Hz refresh rate feels a bit outdated, especially considering the phone's $900 price tag. While Apple has improved the smoothness compared to older models like the iPhone 14, it's still hard to overlook the fact that almost every Android phone, even budget ones, now offers higher refresh rates. It's a little frustrating that Apple reserves the 120Hz promotion display for the more expensive Pro models. If you're used to a high refresh rate, the 60Hz display might feel like a step back. The other issue is the lack of an always-on display. This feature has become pretty standard across other smartphones, but Apple has kept it exclusive to the Pro models. Without it, the screen just goes black when locked, which might not seem like a big deal, but it's something you'll notice once you've used a phone that has it. Apple's always-on display is customizable and looks great, so it's disappointing that it's not available on the 16 Plus. Despite these drawbacks, the screen itself is sharp, colorful, and incredibly bright. It has the same pixel density as the iPhone 16, and while the bezels are a little bigger than on the Pro Max, it's still a great display. The difference in bezel size isn't a deal-breaker, but the Pro Max's smaller bezels do give it a more futuristic look. As for the camera, the iPhone 16 Plus shares the same setup as the iPhone 16, so there's no difference in performance. You get a 48-megapixel main camera, a 12-megapixels ultrawide camera, a 2x optical zoom, and a 12-megapixel selfie camera. Apple has introduced updated photographic styles with iOS 18, which are fun to experiment with. These filters let you change the look of your photos in real time or after you've taken them, offering some creative flexibility. In terms of everyday photo quality, the camera performs well, capturing sharp, detailed images with good balance. It handles exposure issues better than some previous iPhone models, and you can get a nice depth of field when shooting close to subjects. The wide-angle camera is consistent, though it lacks the same level of detail as the main camera. Low light performance, however, isn't as impressive, with grainy results even in dim indoor lighting. The 2x zoom is decent, but details start to get lost when you crop in further. The camera control button is a neat addition, making the process of taking photos a little more interactive, and the editing tools within the camera app are robust, though they can feel a bit clunky at first. Once you get the hang of them, though, they're quite effective. However, if the camera is a top priority for you, you might want to consider a Pro model, as there isn't much to differentiate the 16 Plus in this regard from the standard iPhone 16. Moving on to the software, iOS 18 is pre-installed on the iPhone 16 series, and it's as user-friendly as ever. It offers a bunch of useful features, with very few interruptions or gimmicks. The A18 chip, not to be confused with the A18 Pro in the Pro models, ensures everything runs smoothly, and while there's a small performance difference between the 16 Plus and the regular 16, it's not something you'll notice in everyday use. Customization options in iOS 18 are more flexible than before, letting you change the layout and color of app icons, add widgets, and more. But honestly, I prefer sticking to the classic iPhone layout. Some of the customization options feel a bit unnecessary, and you could easily end up with a cluttered home screen if you go overboard. Overall, iOS remains one of Apple's strongest assets. It's simple to use, packed with useful apps and services like Apple Pay, Apple Music, and Apple Maps, and is backed by excellent long-term software support. While Android has made strides, especially on the Pixel 9 series, iOS still has the edge in terms of a well-rounded, polished user experience. Finally, Apple Intelligence, a new feature expected in iOS 18.1, wasn't included in my review unit. While you can access it in the public beta, it's still a bit rough around the edges. At this stage, it's not something I'd recommend relying on. Apple is launching a new feature called Apple Intelligence, with iOS 18.1 in the US this October, and it will be available in beta in the UK by December. Based on my experiences with other similar services like Google Gemini and Samsung's Galaxy AI, I don't think Apple Intelligence will be a major reason to buy the new iPhone 16. So, if you're deciding whether to get one, don't wait just for this feature. If it turns out to be amazing and better than the competition, then it's a nice bonus. When it comes to battery life, Apple doesn't tell us the exact size of the battery in the iPhone 16 Plus, but they do say it can play video for up to 27 hours, compared to 22 hours on the regular iPhone 16. This suggests the 16 Plus has a larger battery. In real-world use, I found the battery to last about 6 hours of screen on time, which is the same as the iPhone 16. So, no surprises here. The good news is that the battery life has been very reliable, especially compared to my experience with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, where the battery performance was all over the place. Charging can be done with a USB-C cable or a MagSafe wireless charger. Apple says you can get to 50% charge in 30 minutes with a 20-watt charger, which seems accurate, but a full charge takes around 90 minutes. It's not the fastest, but there's a cool feature called Standby. While it charges on the MagSafe overnight, the phone turns into a smart display and clock, which is super handy if you're using it by your bedside. Even with a few hours of screen use, the battery still had around 50% left at the end of the day, so no worries about it dying on you. The iPhone 16 Plus starts at $899 for the 128GB version. But keep in mind that 128GB might feel limiting over time, so you may want to consider paying an extra $100 for 256GB or $200 for 512GB. If you don't upgrade your storage, you might end up needing to pay for iCloud storage later on. For $100 more, you're getting the bigger screen compared to the regular iPhone 16. Whether that's worth it depends on how you feel about using a bigger phone every day. If you're comfortable with that, great. If not, you won't miss out on much by going with the regular iPhone 16. Now, if you're thinking about spending more, the iPhone 16 Pro Max comes into the picture. It has an even bigger, always-on screen, a smoother 120Hz refresh rate, better cameras, and other improvements. So, when you look at it that way, it's hard to see where the iPhone 16 Plus fits. It's not the cheapest, and it's not the best, it's just the most affordable big iPhone, which isn't necessarily a good enough reason to buy it. It feels like Apple made compromises with this model, and it doesn't really stand out. To be clear, the iPhone 16 Plus is a great phone, and I can easily recommend it. But the issue is, I'm not sure who it's for. The compromises, like the size, weight, and lower refresh rate, make me think it might be better to either spend less and get the iPhone 16 or spend more for the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which offers more value overall. It's frustrating that the battery life isn't much better than the regular iPhone 16, despite the bigger screen. The cameras and processor are the same, and the larger screen doesn't come with key features that I'd expect in 2024. Don't get me wrong, the iPhone 16 Plus is excellent, but unless you really want a bigger screen, the regular iPhone 16 is cheaper and just as good. However, if you do want a big screen phone and you're okay with spending more, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a much better option. It gives you the bigger screen without the compromises, plus more features. Honestly, I'm ready to go back to using my Pro Max and leave the 16 Plus behind, not because it's bad, but because it doesn't do enough to stand out. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. See you next time, and goodbye.